Are you making cold calls right now as we speak? Do you ever get the feeling like it's just the equivalent of you taking a giant brick and just banging it against your head day after day after day? This is the experience that most cold callers go through. Cold calling can be very difficult. Yet, there are a number of strategies that you can use to make your dial so much more effective than just using the traditional cold calling approach. Most salespeople make their lives so much harder than they have to have it. If you are making cold calls, then you must watch this training. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly what you must know in order to be effective at cold calling. So don't make another dial until you see this. Check it out. Number one, stop cold calling. You may say, but Mark, you just said if I'm making cold calls, then I need to watch this video. So why would I stop making cold calls? Because cold calls are a really antiquated and old approach that simply is much harder than it has to be. Now, I'm not saying that you should stop making prospecting calls, but you should stop making the traditional cold dial. You should always be warming up your calls through other mediums. You've got so many ways to get in touch with a prospect nowadays. It's not just about cold calls. You can be using email, you can be using LinkedIn or Facebook, or you could be sending them a letter or a package. There are so many ways that you can be connecting with your prospect before you get them on the phone. So that way when they actually answer the phone, they're like, oh yeah, I remember you. And suddenly the call is so much less cold because now they have an idea of who you are. Maybe they've gotten some value from what you've sent. And so you are so much more likely to be effective and successful on that call. Number two, master your IPP, or your ideal prospect profile. This is one of my biggest passions recently, as I see so many salespeople making dials to prospects who aren't even necessarily a good fit for what they offer. Making dials is painful. It's hard work. So do the effort up front to make sure that the people that you're actually calling on are going to be a good fit. That means making sure that they're the right title, that they have the right challenges, that they're in the right geographies, that they're likely to be good buyers for whatever it is that you sell. Number three, know your blueprint. Now this goes back to my earlier idea of stop making cold calls. What we believe is that you need to be using your prospecting blueprint to make sure that when you're making dials, by the time you actually get that person on the phone, they're like, oh yeah, I know who you are. And so we use a strategy called the prospecting blueprint. And the prospecting blueprint is simply that you're going to use a completely mapped out approach, taking advantage of a number of mediums to contact the person. Again, using email, LinkedIn, maybe Facebook, maybe sending a traditional snail mail letter. I mean, there's so many ways that you can be getting in touch with someone and mapping out that whole process and then mixing in your dials in between each of these steps. Let's say you're sending 6 emails over the course of a month. If you're making dials in between each of those emails, now you're so much more likely to combine those two approaches to both get the person on the phone, and when you actually get them on the phone, they're gonna be like, I know who you are. And yeah, I saw that email and I got some value out of it, so thanks. So what's up? Now you're at such a better place than you were if you were just making a purely cold dial. Number four, have a KickAss CTA, or call to action. When most people make cold calls, they think that the only logical call to action is trying to schedule a meeting or make a sale. But the reality is that there are a lot of next steps as a result of a cold call that are going to bring the prospect in. Because let's face it, if your prospect is a high-level buyer, the last thing they want to do is just schedule a meeting with some salesperson that they've never talked to who just called them out of the blue. So by using a kick-ass call to action, something like a complimentary piece of content or some kind of insight that's more interesting than just hopping on a call with you or hopping on a call with your boss or whomever it is. So by using a call to action that's really going to suck them in, that they're going to be like, yeah, actually, that sounds good. Now they're going to be so much more likely to want to have that meeting because, of course, in order for them to get whatever that call to action is, they're going to ultimately have to schedule a next step with you. That's the power of a kick-ass CTA. Number 5, script out your call. This is so basic, but we cannot be making calls to prospects with no script. It's genuinely insane to me to envision all the hordes of salespeople who are out there right now who are making cold calls to prospects and don't have any script. They're just saying whatever comes to their mind. That's like watching a really, really, really terrible movie. A great movie has a great script. That's the basis of a great movie. A great prospecting call is going to have a great script. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to sound scripted. Whenever I use a script, and we still use scripts in our organization for every call we make, and we're really good at using the script, so we don't sound scripted. In fact, having the script keeps the call on track. And it makes sure that what we say is actually what we want to say. Because let's face it, you make 50 dials, you finally get someone on the phone, and you're like, oh, you wake up out of your stupor, and they're like, hello, and you're like, oh, hi, and you're already just off script. Have a script to make sure that you both follow a good process and make sure that you stay on track. Number 6, know your contingencies. This is a big one. Prospecting calls have a number of areas in the call where the prospect is likely to push back. They're likely to try to get off the call. And you want to have contingencies in place in order to meet those moments. It's kind of like mini objections, but it's really, I consider it just more pushback because it's not really an objection to buying your service. It's more just like an objection to continuing the call. Something like, hey, I gotta go. Can you call me back later? Most salespeople are like, oh, okay, sure. What would be a good time to call you back? That person doesn't really want you to call back. They just want to get off the damn phone. So you want to have contingencies in place that are going to allow you to push back and stay on the phone rather than having them get you off the phone and then blocking your number and never hearing from you again. Know your contingencies. Number 7, live by next steps. The only thing that matters in prospecting is next steps. In today's world of selling, there are no cold dials or prospecting calls that typically end in a sale. I don't see a lot of that anymore. If you were selling something that is big or to businesses, your goal is not to make a sale in that call. It is simply to schedule a meeting. So live by next steps. You want to make sure that you're never in the world of following up with a prospect. You want to have a scheduled next step. That means a calendar invite goes out from your calendar into their calendar, and you have a scheduled next step. That is the only good outcome that comes out of a prospecting call. Number 8, be very firm. This may go against what a lot of modern day sales techniques suggest, which is to avoid all that high pressure stuff. But the reality is that when you're making a prospecting call, you're dealing with a very cagey animal. You're dealing with a wild animal. And the way you tame a wild animal is not to be really nice and just do whatever the wild animal wants, but instead to provide guide rails, to be very firm and very strong and assertive. And that's exactly what we need to be doing on our prospecting calls. When your prospects are trying to get off the phone, trying to say, hey, you know what, why don't you just try me back next week? The average salesperson is like, oh, okay, great. And they think that they actually have something, but they don't, because all that prospect wanted to do was end the damn call. You need to be very firm. You need to be very assertive, and to the point where you're really willing to frustrate the prospect because you're so firm. The only outcome is either that they basically hang up on you, or you schedule a next step, or you determine, of course, that it's just not a fit, which is fine. But anything in between that, the kind of wishy-washy, hey, why don't you try me back stuff, is off the table. Number 9. Nobody can hurt you. This is really one of the most critical keys to prospecting calls. So many people are so terrified of making a prospecting call. It's almost like doing stand-up comedy or giving a speech. A cold call I would put in the same bucket as those. But the reality is that no one can hurt you. They can't physically harm you. They can't bring violence to you. They're simply a person on the other end of the phone. And so the only harm that they can do is whatever you're willing to allow them to do to you. Nothing that bad can happen. the worst thing that happens is they get a little cranky and they hang up on you, or they tell you to go away, or that they can't talk right now. Most prospects are actually pretty nice about it. They're like, this just isn't a good time. Can you try me later? And the conversation just kind of falls apart. That's okay. But just remember, we can't be living in fear every time we're making a dial. They cannot hurt you. So there are my ideas on cold calling. And you must now implement these ideas and don't make another dial until you do. And if you enjoyed this video, then I have an awesome free training on the data-driven approach to closing more sales in today's marketplace. Just click right here to get registered instantly. Seriously, just click right here. This is an in-depth training that will help you close more sales at higher prices, all while generating more meetings. Also, if you got some value, please like this video below on YouTube and be sure to subscribe by clicking my face that should be right about here to get access to a new video just like this one each week.